Hello and welcome to tonight's news on WVPE. I'm your host, Abby Hembrecht. Tonight on this beautiful November night in 1945, some troubling new developments in foreign affairs. The Nuremberg trials in Germany have just begun. The Allied powers are putting the enemy under trials for their heinous war crimes. Nazis and Hitler's associates were among the criminals on stand today against British and American attorneys in Nuremberg, Germany. Some big-name criminals were missing on the stand on opening day. Hitler's top associates, Heinrich Himmler and Joseph Goebbels, both killed themselves this past spring before they could be brought to justice. Other Nazis and Gestapo, Nazi secret state police, are using defense arguments like the ex post facto law, stating that the actions they are being criminalized for weren't written in law while they were being committed. Also in the courthouse today, new and impressive technology made its debut. Due to the various origins and linguistics of the war criminals and lawyers, IBM provided the instantaneous translation of the testimonies. IBM also recruited men and women from the International Telephone Exchange to provide on-the-spot translations through headphones in English, French, German, and Russian. If you are just joining us or have been living under a rock for the past 6 years, let's take a look at our team and recap what crimes against humanity these men are being tried for. Gwen Olson is on the spot with more. Gwen?
During the Nazi regiment led by Adolf Hitler, 6 million Jewish people were murdered by the Nazis. Since they weren't part of his perfect Aryan race, Polish people, Catholics, Serbs, and handicapped people were murdered as well, bringing the total up to 17 million innocent people dead. All people who were thought to be inferior were brought to concentration camps. They were told they were relocating to a better place, however, this was not the case. Concentration camps were a place of death. Suffering from gunshot wounds, starving, being gassed, or working to death were all common causes of death in this place. World War II recently ended with the unconditional surrender of the Axis forces. The Germans surrendered on the 29th of April, 1945, in Italy after Hitler killed himself, and total unconditional surrender was signed on the 7th of May. By the 8th of May, Winston Churchill had announced that the war had come to an end by announcing victory in Europe. We're still helping with the recovery effort in Europe, and hopefully we'll be able to find closure in these Nuremberg trials. Back to the desk.
Back to the studio desk here. I'm Caroline Morris. After a recent bombing in Pearl Harbor in December 7, 1941, many Americans feared Japanese citizens. Congressional hearings were taken right after the bombing in February 1942. And a majority of the testimonies declared that all Japanese needed to be removed. This decision wasn't made totally final until Executive Order 9066 came out, where President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed it. This authorized military to relocate Japanese Americans from their homes to internment centers. Japanese Americans were only given 6 days' notice to sell all their belongings that they could not hold or carry. General John L. DeWitt, leader of Western Defense Command, supported and helped make this happen. He quoted that he believes that it should go through in order to not have a repeat of the Pearl Harbor attack. The majority of the camps in the U.S. were created in California, Washington, and Oregon. And there was a large population of Japanese that had to attend these camps. Over 110,000 Americans, Japanese Americans, were put in these camps. The U.S. was not the only one who took action on this. Mexico and Canada followed suit. These camps are coming to a close today as followed by a Supreme Court decision. Now on to Chloe Ng.
Thank you, Caroline. Now on to the story of the rape of Nanking. In December of 1937, Japanese troops led a mass murder and mass rape against the city of Nanking in China. This has become known as the Forgotten Holocaust. This is because the victims of the rape of Nanking didn't let their stories be heard around the world like the Jews of the Holocaust did. Nanking occurred over the course of only 6 weeks, but within those 6 weeks, an estimated 300,000 Chinese civilians and soldiers were murdered and raped by Japanese troops. Men were gassed, shot with machine guns, and burned alive. Women were raped and nailed to the walls alive. The Japanese were so awful, even the Nazis were shocked at these actions. These actions were much worse than any other event to happen in the world, even worse than the Holocaust. A German businessman, John Rabe, helped save and bring 250,000 Chinese civilians shelter. The Japanese soldiers were heartless, and they have no remorse or regret for these actions. And they've gotten away with it because almost no one outside of Asia knows about the rape of Nanking. Let it be known, the rape of Nanking happened and should not be pushed under the rug or forgotten about. That's all tonight, folks. See you tomorrow at 6.